Today, using the Revised Common Lectionary, we continue through a cycle of scriptures taken from the Gospel according to Matthew. Now, in this Gospel, in the chapters 5, 6, and 7, we have really the essence of the teaching of Jesus Christ. Some say his entire work on earth rolled up in a nutshell, as it were, into some essential writings recorded in the Gospel of Matthew. Today, we have these amazing words that speak to us of salt and light. Salt, I don't know about you, but when you consider your diet, some of us place more awareness on our salt intake. And when we do, we become aware of its power. It is a powerful mineral that is used in many ways, from our winter roads to our very bodies. And it's an essence that we wish to use appropriately for our own health and well-being. So Jesus uses it as a metaphor to give us a guide of how our life is to be used appropriately in this world. He continues to speak and create another metaphor of light. Now, light truly is like consciousness, awareness. And so we too bring light to this world in our consciousness of God's creation of the world and our important place in it, each and every one. Jesus declared, "You are the salt of the earth." But if the salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness, its essence, be restored? It's no longer good for anything, but is thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but instead on a lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory, honor to your Father in heaven, who inspires your works. For February, yes, we are kicking off February. I'll use that little phrase today on Super Bowl Sunday. We're kicking off February with a 4-part series on Job, the book of Job. Today I entitled the lesson, probably the most common theme, sometimes the only theme that a minister brings out of the book of Job, if they talk about it at all. And that is, why do bad things happen to good people? Well, in the coming weeks, that is only one riddle or question that we will ponder. This series on Job, one author described that just as an actor, a fine actor, dreams of the day that they can perform Hamlet or another work by Shakespeare, many a minister dreams of bringing forth a lesson, a sermon from the book of Job. It is the challenge of our Hebrew scriptures that, of course, form an important part of our Bible. The story of Job is a dramatic one. It's somewhat like what our contemporary world thinks of with all of the excitement, particularly by the young people, but it's not limited to the young people, for great sagas. I can remember attending in Kansas City at the Glenwood theater many years ago when the first Star Wars came out. And we had many of them. And that's just one of the great space dramas. More recently, our young people have been excited in great numbers by stories such as The Lord of the Rings. Oh, help me think of some more. What is that one that was quite popular? Harry Potter. Yes, thank you. And they all share something in common with the book of Job, in that they take us through their dramatic story, their journey, the great challenges that the characters face, for the purpose of waking us up in questions and ponderings about our place in this world and our relationship with our Creator. And that we can trust an invisible guide, a force, as we say in Star Trek. Trust it. It will guide you if you listen, if you pay attention. And so now, this book of Job, which some of us, particularly those of us that are younger in ministry or students in a seminary, it is the biggest drama in length and complexity in our entire Bible. And more so, it is thought to be the oldest and most complex drama about these great human questions produced by any tradition. So it's a great landmark. And sometimes it's like that book on the shelf, perhaps even the Bible. Oh, it's so big. It's so long. This is like 1,800 pages. Harry Potter's longer. That we might be a little shy to take it up. So in this month of 4 lessons, we're just going to touch on the overall framework of the story and some of the discoveries that Job made that we may make for ourselves. It's an old tale from forgotten times. The unknown author that arranged it, as we know it today, could have begun the story a long time ago in a place far away. Because that is the truth of it. Although it's important, a very important part of the wisdom literature of the Hebrew Scriptures, Job was a man from an unknown place, a powerful man of ancient times, perhaps as far back as the time of Moses, which is almost 4,000 years ago, a great man of the East. He was not part of the people of Abraham, or later the Hebrew community. He was a mysterious personage from the East. And our witnessing of his journey from prosperity through poverty, disease, and deep mental suffering can lead us to consider the meaning of life in this world and the very character, quality, or characteristics of our God. And Job is still present. What he experienced and what is revealed in the story is something that is not unknown to us today. The themes are still there for humanity, with our own experiences and challenges, our family, friends, community, really the entire human family. As I was thinking about an introduction to the book of Job, something knocked at my heart, and I recalled the searching questions of my own grandmother, as she and grandfather searched for answers as their firstborn child, my mother, was at the age of death. at the edge of death. I even have my mother's so-called death photograph, a testament that she had been born but died. You see, she was born with a stenosis, or a constriction of the esophagus, a closed throat that prevented her from taking any milk or nourishment. I can just imagine grandmother must have held mother in her arms while singing a hymn that was actually new at that time, that grandmother would continue to sing throughout her life. Tempted and tried, we're oft made to wonder why it should be thus all the day long, while there are others living about us, never molested, though in the wrong. Farther along we'll know more about it. Farther along we'll understand why. Cheer up, my brother, live in the sunshine. We'll understand it all by and by. I see some of you quietly singing along. You know those songs. Well, my family story, they planned to take my mother to St. Louis as a last chance for surgery on this little newborn, to surgically open her throat, knowing that there was a good chance she would not survive the operation. But it's all they could think to do. But just before the surgery, my mother's throat opened. And she was granted a life that, as many of you know, took her to her 96th year. But it almost didn't begin. So these trials that we have all faced, or our families have faced in some way, bring up the age-old questions, often focused around why, oh why, oh why. So let's look. Today we will only have the opportunity to just begin the story. Many actors these days will talk about, when they're performing in a movie or on television, that to prepare for their character, for the story, they have to look at the backstory of their character. That is, what went on to start this story. And the structure of Job is a prologue that sets the story up, the story itself, and then one of those epilogues at the end that tells you. Sometimes in our movies it shows up on the screen at the end. It kind of tells you what happened to the characters during the rest of their life. So as I said, the story begins long ago. We're not even really sure. We know that it was written in its present form perhaps 2,500 years ago, but the story had been told by many peoples at least 3,500 to 4,000 years ago. It's that longest drama, that oldest literary form of a great saga. And all through the Middle East, the question had plagued humanity. Why do the innocent suffer? And all the way into our own time, many continue to consider this ancient riddle of humanity. So let us begin with the prologue, or the beginning. Now, I don't know if you've attended a movie and you start trying to figure out the plot, and you turn to a friend and say, that didn't make sense. That's why I've never. And your friend says, don't spoil it. Don't try to tear it apart with logic or whatever. So in this story, we must accept its beginning, its premise, and the things that happen along the way, so that we can really experience Job's character and ultimately his discovery. It's really come down to us in this very day when you hear someone say, the patience of Job. Perhaps a more accurate phrase would be the endurance of Job. There once was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job. That man was blameless and upright, one who feared and honored God, and turned away from evil. There were born to him 7 sons and 3 daughters. He had 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen, 500 donkeys, and very many servants, so that this man was the greatest of all the people of the East. His sons used to go and hold feasts in one another's houses in turn, and they would send and invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. And often, when the feast days had run their course, Job would send for them and sanctify them. And Job would rise early in the morning and offer burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, "It may be that my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts." So he made offerings to God. This is what Job always did. One day the heavenly beings came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. The Lord said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" And Satan answered the Lord, "From going to and fro on the earth, and from walking up and down upon it." We might say these days he was checking it out, checking earth out. The Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man, who fears God and turns away from evil." Then Satan answered the Lord, "Does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not put a fence around him and his house and all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But stretch out your hand now and touch all that he has. Remove it, and he will curse you to your face." The Lord said to Satan, "Very well, all that he has is in your power. Only do not stretch out your hand against him and kill him." So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. One day when his sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in the eldest brother's house, a messenger came to Job and said, "The oxen were plowing, and the donkeys were feeding beside them, and the Sabeans fell on them, and carried them off, and killed the servants with the edge of the sword. I alone have escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another came and said, "The fire of God fell from heaven and burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them. I alone survived to tell you." While he was still speaking, another came and said, "The Chaldeans formed 3 columns, made a raid on the camels and carried them off, and killed the servants with the edge of the sword. I alone have escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another came and said, "Your sons and daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house, and suddenly a great wind came across the desert, struck the 4 corners of the house, and it fell on the young people, and they are all dead. I alone have escaped to tell you." Then Job rose, tore open his robe, shaved his head, and fell on the ground and worshipped. He said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return there. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." In all this, Job did not sin, nor charge God with the wrongdoing. A number of years ago, but not from ancient times, in 1981, a book by the Rabbi Harold Kushner came out, and he entitled his book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. And he focused on 3 essential beliefs held by Job, his friends, and all the people of the time. These 3, Rabbi Kushner lists this way. We would like to believe them. Many of us hold them in our own words and our own expressions, these central ideas. 1, God is all-powerful and causes everything that happens in the world. Nothing happens without God willing it. Number 2, God is just and fair and stands for people getting what they deserve, so that the good prosper and the wicked are punished. 3, Job is a good person. Well, Kushner suggests that as long as Job is blessed, in the very opening of the story, we can hold these 3 beliefs without contradiction. But in Job's trials, we can affirm any of these 2 beliefs only by denying the third. In logic, you can only pick 2 of the 3 and maintain them. And so Job, his friends, and even us continue to struggle for an understanding of the nature of God in the light of Job's suffering. Now, spoiler alert. Well, not really. Rabbi Kushner revealed a mystery in the very title of his book. Did you catch it? He changed why to when. Not why bad things happen, but when bad things happen. But we struggle with the why, always wanting to know the why. Well, I always remember it might have even been a Super Bowl Sunday years ago when Budweiser put out a commercial and the key phrase was, "Why ask why?" Why ask why? So I'm going to let you ponder that for a while, because we're going to take that question up in the coming weeks. Is why the most important question? Is it even a valid question? But let's not rush to the end of Job's tale. We have many of his questions yet to explore. Some will comfort and encourage us, while others will anger and perhaps frustrate us. But don't be afraid. We will make our own discoveries. We will make strides toward a greater view of life. Next week, my lesson is entitled, Can We Give Thanks When We See No Blessings? Satan himself posed this question to God in the prologue, if you heard it. It was actually Satan's challenge to God, to provoke God. You see, Satan at this time, in that language, Satana, meant not so much the personalized devil that we have been accustomed to in more modern times. Satan was seen as an adversary, one who challenges you, provokes you, pushes you so that you, what? You push back, you respond. So this adversary pushed or provoked God with this question. Well, sure, if you bless Job with all these wonderful possessions and wealth and his health and his big family, Well, of course he's going to give thanks and praise you. But take all that away and see what happens. And it's a challenge for our own spiritual practice now. Surely most of us have faced times when things just aren't going right. We seem to lose our health, our wealth, our career, our relationships. Things are really challenged. How easy is it then to be grateful? To keep our hearts open to life. So this is just one of the many questions that we are going to face. I'll close by one of my favorite little quotes that comes from a letter written by Myrtle Fillmore to someone in Myrtle's day posing similar Jobic, that sounds too complicated, Job-like questions. And she began the letter quoting from the epistle or letter of James, a phrase that she used many, many times, at least according to our written records. So Myrtle began this letter, "When he of the cloven hoof appears," Satan, "when he appears, count it all joy. Don't be disturbed by the temporary disorder. See it as the efforts of soul and body to make adjustments, bringing to the surface things that need attention and need the baptism of Spirit, the blessing of Spirit." So I invite us now to take a time to turn within. Perhaps already I have provoked you. We were taught in school that great minister's lesson. I am to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. In other words, at times, challenge you. And so perhaps even in just this beginning, the whole setup of Job's story, you may have heard a voice inside, "I don't want to go there. I don't want to hear this. Let's talk about a more happy story." Maybe something has touched your heart already. So that's a time to turn within to prayer and to listen in the silence. So I invite you to close your eyes, to make yourself comfortable. If we experience any struggle, any loneliness, any difficulty in life, if we listen, we may hear these words within. The words were given their shape by Unity poet James Dillett Freeman. Do you need me? I am there. You cannot see me, yet I am the light you see by. You cannot hear me, yet I speak through your voice. You cannot feel me, yet I am the power at work in your hands. I am at work, though you do not understand my ways. I am at work, though you do not recognize my works. I am not strange visions. I am not mysteries. Only in absolute stillness, beyond self, can you know me as I am. And then, but as a feeling and a faith. Yet I am there. Yet I hear. Yet I answer. So we rest in the calm of stillness and silence. For that still small voice that never leaves our true self, if we listen. Almighty Spirit, we give thanks that whenever we call, whenever we turn the attention of our heart and mind toward your truth, toward your presence, toward your love, we do find our saltiness, our truth. We do find a light for our path to go forward. And so we let our words of prayer be simple. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.